All right, how about that, guys? What about a plot twist in a documentary? Want to invite Dan Chen to come back down on the stage with us.
Thank you.
We can turn the sound down too up there if you can, guys. All right, Dan, this film is incredible in so many ways. I have one question. I'm sure everyone will have questions. Let's see if we can get the sound down. Sorry.
It's okay. It's 80s song.
We can yell over it. Yeah, it
Oh,
is
no,
a
there we
beautiful
go.
song. Okay, thank you. So my first question for you is that I've personally watched a number of documentaries about educational systems. This felt very different in really great ways, specifically with your focus on the kids themselves, I think. And it turned into almost a coming-of-age story for all four of them that you were focusing on in the film. Can you talk a little bit about that, if that was your intention from the beginning?
Yeah, because kind of going into the story, we came in at the beginning of the school year, so we didn't know what would end up happening. But I guess our North Star the whole time was kind of like, let's just see it from a student's point of view. I remember in high school, I always felt misunderstood by like the media. I always wondered why like they would cast 30-year-olds to play high school students in various shows. And so when I heard about the school, when our producer Jason told me about the school, I just thought like, well, what's it like being a student here? Like your school's kind of famous. The news is calling you out as this amazing miracle place, and how much pressure does that put on you? And what's it like to feel underestimated to the point where it's such a big deal if you like succeed, right? And so I guess that was our goal the whole time, was to just really see it from their point of view, almost have like a movie that feels like a high school senior video that's being narrated by the students themselves.
Does anybody have a question they want to ask immediately? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty impressed with him, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the student you're talking about is James at Yale. James is someone who, had a great family, had a lot of support, and went to a private school before he transferred to TM Landry when he heard that they were doing some amazing things as far as college applications go. And so I think if you ask James, he would say, I was always I was always into school. I always took school very seriously. But Mike really kind of instilled this sense of ambition and encouragement that I think James would say maybe he thrived off of. I know other students who went to different schools, they all had different experiences. So some would go to a school and they would be like, I don't feel prepared to go here. I'm glad I got the opportunity, but this isn't the right fit. And so some kids would withdraw. Some, like James, would stay. And I think it's just different for each student that ended up going to a school like that.
Did any of the ones that already got into Ivy League, anything get negated? Like, did anybody have their transcript re-examined and negated because of the allegation?
As far as I know, most of the universities understood that the students didn't necessarily do these things intentionally. And I think that, as far as I know, no one was kicked out because of what was released in the New York Times. I think there were conversations, again, like I was saying, like students would figure out for themselves whether it was the right fit or not, but I don't think the universities took it against the students.
And TM Landry is still operational at this point?
As of locking the film, yes. I don't know how COVID has like made things better or worse. Probably harder to teach in that kind of environment. But yeah, as far as 2 years after we finished this documentary, they were still running.
How long did it take, the documentary?
We started filming in April of 2018 when we met these juniors when they were still juniors, and then we filmed through the school year, and then a little bit of August 2019 was them going off to their new colleges or new beginnings. So that was filming, and then we took another year to edit, and then our film festival run started last June, and it's been going on for a while too. Oh, and we'll release later this year to the public too.
Especially since you're here, we felt that you were kind of on a roller coaster with what was happening at TM Landry, and then what was happening with that. What is the name for that scandal?
Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues. That was kind of fell into your lap and kind of made your story fuller, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a weird confluence of events. But I think when Varsity Blues happened, it kind of, because we were telling a really specific story about one school and these kids who went to this one school, and then when Varsity Blues happened, and it kind of became a national conversation about what has happened to college admissions, why is it kind of so ridiculous and exaggerated. It kind of felt natural to be like, all right, well, let's, if everyone in the country is thinking about it now, let's kind of dovetail it into this specific story as well.
His intentions were good. He wanted to make these kids, take these kids and send them on their way. May have fallen off the rails a little bit, but did you get that feeling that he was really, in his heart, he wanted to do good by these kids? It was sad to see it, what happened, but what do you think?
What I think, and everyone has different opinions. What I think is, I do think he had good intentions starting out. I do think he tried to do something positive, and I think there were just some things along the way that didn't quite get done right and may have cut some corners and had some personal shortcomings. And also like resources, like he didn't have the same resources that other schools have. So yeah, I'd largely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think you did some great storytelling here because there were lots of contrasts, and you're sort of thinking this is just going to be a feel-good thing, and everything was shocking. But one of the smaller pieces that you alluded to was you must have had footage and more understanding of the family backgrounds. Did you think at some point about featuring more from the parents, or just make it a distinct decision to stay out of that piece? You know, what their upbringing was, where they were before.
Yeah, we actually filmed a lot with each student's parents, as much as we could respectfully. We actually have around 40 interviews over the course of the year. We ended up, in the edit, really focusing it mainly on the student's point of view. And then hopefully, I think, because we were able to talk to many parents in the community, I think hopefully it was shown in kind of the story we ended up telling, like everything kind of shaded and colored how we present the story to you, the viewer. But I think it was a choice, just watching the edit. It was starting to get confusing. If you had like 20 people, you're like, well, who's that again? Whose parent were they? Where did I see them? And so it really became more of a strong like viewing experience when it really was just seen through these kids' eyes. But we were definitely thinking about everyone's POV that they shared with us along the way.
It might have been in the earlier part of the film, but when did the first graduating class at TM Landry graduate?
Well, they started in 2005, and so it started really small. I don't think it became the viral phenomenon until like 2017, 2018. And then the class we followed was the class of 2018, 2019.
The institution has any reports of how their students do as far as continuing their college careers? What percentage completes? Because you're saying some finally, don't fit in. Does the school keep track of anything like that?
Not as far as I know, but I know it's a different experience for different students. Usually, taking into account like what kind of experience have they had coming into the school.
Were there other teachers at the school? I know it mentioned like some students teaching younger students.
There were some other teachers, but then there was a lot of kind of like, you guys figure it out yourself. Like, you, older student, teach these younger students. But I remember there was like a Latin teacher, There was like Mandarin teachers. They taught like Hindi in some classes. So I think there was a staff of teachers, and then I think about half of them left before the New York Times article, and those were some of the people that we talked to and the New York Times talked to as well.
Yeah.
When you, I really enjoyed your film. When you were doing it though, did you focus on a whole lot of students and then ultimately choose those four? And if so, how did you choose those four?
When we got there, there were about 15 students in the upcoming senior class, and we did like a quick 30-minute sit down with each one of them, almost as like, we don't know who is going to be in this. We just want to meet everyone and see how you're doing. And so those first interviews, when they're kind of young and sitting into the frame, that's from that first interview we did with them. And then I think along the way, it was kind of natural. We found people that we were kind of naturally curious to follow. And it also was people who were interested in having a film crew follow them. I know some students or some parents were like, sorry, we're not going to be a part of this. We're like, no worries, we'll figure out, how to tell the story. And, I feel like there was like probably 8 students we really wanted to be in the movie, and we had to make the hard choice of cutting it down to 4, just so you as an audience member aren't trying to keep track of 8 people and having to juggle all those perspectives. And I really love the 4 that we picked, and I think they have 4 very different viewpoints as well.
When I first saw the phone call with him, helping the student late at night, I was kind of blown away. But then when you start getting cracks, all that, when did you start seeing that he was a little, not what he was originally presenting, not needed at the beginning of the film?
See, that's a tricky question because I think part of us being there, we didn't want to be exploitative, sensational filmmakers, and so part of that, I think, for us was like, well, we just want to take everything at face value, and so if there was something that I may have thought was confusing, like, oh, how does this class work, or how is everything organized, I kind of just chalked that up to like, well, maybe I just don't understand, and maybe I'll just keep on filming and keep on interviewing people. And eventually this full picture will kind of come together. I know in retrospect, we were actually, I think, putting some of the students in an uncomfortable position, because we would say like, hey, how's it going? And then, what's this part of the school like? And then they would talk to Mike and say, Mike, they're asking us about this. And then Mike would say, don't talk about that. And then I think we inadvertently created an uncomfortable position that, Adia kind of says later, it's like, we didn't want to lie to you, but we also didn't want to say certain things. And so we basically found out in the order that we found things out in the movie.
Yeah, I just read an article that they're thinking, a lot of college admission exams are college admission boards are thinking of getting away from these standardized exams and not including them even. Do you have an opinion about standardized exams, given that a lot of that was teaching to the standardized exam?
Yeah, I'm not an educational policy expert. I honestly don't know. I would leave that to people in education.
There was kind of a throwaway line when he said, my own 3 children didn't go to college. And what's that about, or do you not know about that?
That's what he told us in his first interview. He said, yeah, 3 of my oldest never went to college. I think in his point of view, the school system failed them, like didn't instill confidence or enthusiasm or motivation, and kind of like ignored them, kind of. And so yeah, I think he took that personally and said, okay, well, I'm going to start tutoring kids, and that's how TM Landry started. Was he was tutoring kids he knew in the neighborhood and bringing them into his house, and then eventually it grew and grew into what it became.
Like even the young ones in his home were his too.
The young ones, I believe, are his grandkids, sons of a daughter that he has.
How many hours of footage did you have in total that you had to like cut down for this film?
Like 100 hours, I think. Yeah, maybe like 70 shooting days total, 100 hours, cut down to 90 minutes. Yeah.
There was
Yeah, so we approached the school after I think they had started getting some news media attention. And so by the time we got there, I think a few news crews had come in, shot some stories, left, told really positive things about the school. And I think for Mike, he probably sensed, oh, this is also like a sales tool. Like, the more people that hear about the school, the more successful it seems, the more people might be interested in coming here, and the better reputation we have. So when we approach them saying, hey, is anyone doing a documentary? We would love to, if you like us and we think there's a story there, we could possibly spend the entire school year there and do something really detailed and in-depth about being a student here. He said, great, and I have a feeling he probably thought it was going to be more like a simple, get it done, it'll be really straightforward, and I think even before the scandal, I think he started getting kind of annoyed that we kept on coming back, kept on asking questions. We're looking into kind of how stressful and intense the school can be sometimes. And then when we actually lost access before the scandal for a time because it's a really long story that involves another a production company hearing about our film and then approaching Mike and saying, we want to buy your life rights right now. And then Mike saying, I'll take that. And then, so we were like, that's kind of weird. And then around that time is also when we started talking to the teachers who left. And they said, we have some things to tell you. Next time you're back, we want to talk to you. And so then we talked to them and we learned about what was happening with the New York Times. They were talking to the New York Times. We said, oh my God, can we help? And they said, no, it's ongoing. And at that point, we actually stopped doing the documentary because we felt we were doing one thing. We were not equipped to do another thing, nor did we want to do a takedown. And it wasn't until after the information was made public that our students were kind of moving into the new chapters of their lives. We were frustrated that certain narratives were kind of being simplified or overlooked. And at that point, we kind of said, maybe there's something we can do to finish this and round out their stories and help get the rest of these details out. And so, but the whole time while we came back, we were like, hey, Mike, like, we're back here now. Do you want to talk? And he'd be like, I would have talked to you, but you started talking to everyone else. And we're like, well, we want to hear everyone's opinion. And what you saw at graduation was what ended up happening. And there was a moment, Jesse was the producer, one of the producers. He was inside, who was talking to Mike. I was outside, and I wasn't let in. And one of the parents at TM Landry said, I don't like it when people like you come to our town and make judgments on how we teach our kids. My daughter's here, and she's doing great. Mike's doing a great job teaching her. And I was kind of like, I understand your frustration. And just between me and you, like, I'm not casting any judgments. I just am interested in following what happened to the school year. But that was kind of the frustration that a TM Landry parent felt, was why are you all coming in here? You have no skin in the game. Why are you here casting judgments on us?
Yeah. It's interesting. Well, and I think it's very fascinating and I think telling about Mike's personality too, in that originally he did want you to come into his world even though he knew about some of these other things that were happening, and very much ended up exposing himself. So I think that's really interesting, and it's sad to hear you say though too, in terms of feeling like you ended up putting the students in a tough position when they really shouldn't have been put in that position at all as kids. But yeah, I think this is all credit to you guys and your filmmaking, because you're totally right. I mean, you could have sensationalized that. In some ways, that's some filmmaker's dream, is to have a scandal like that happen, but you really kept it into a grounded film that was really about the kids, and that's why I love this film so much. So let's give Dan another round of applause.
Thank you.
There's another screening of this film, I think, tomorrow.
There's a screening tomorrow at 2:30 if you want to recommend it to any folks.
Yeah, fill out your ballots, give Dan a chance to win some prizes. And when's the public release, did you say?
It's in July.
July, okay.
Will be publicly released.
Great, congrats. All right, thank you, everybody.